In today's video, we're going to walk you through in full how to set up a Google Ads call only campaign. And this video is going to be most useful to you if you're running a service-based business that relies mostly on phone calls to get your own work. And even if you're used to getting a lot of messages or emails, it is usually phone calls that convert at the highest rate into paid jobs. So most service-based businesses are going to want to optimize for phone calls most of the time, just because most of those calls actually turn into jobs versus those that they get through form submission. And because of that, especially if you're a business where it makes most sense for the customer to call you directly if they're interested in getting the job done, that you want to set up a call only campaign as well as any regular search campaigns that you're already running. And in a lot of cases, if you only have the budget for one campaign and your local business, like, a plumber, for example, that, it makes most sense for someone to call you directly, then I'd go ahead and almost go straight for a call only campaign. And this applies to a lot of other service-based businesses as well. Things like, repairs and things like that, where somebody's looking to get the job done now. There are cases where it might make more sense to set up a regular search campaign at the beginning, especially for much like higher ticket services where like, someone might want to reach out for a quote by filling out the form first because it's a slightly longer sales process. But for like quicker jobs where people like want to get the job done right now and you just want to get more phone calls for that, then you want to go ahead and set up a call only campaign for that. So just to like dive straight into it, like once you're in your Google Ads account, first of all, and you're inside the overview section, you want to just come here to press new campaign. So once you're in your campaign objective, then we're going to choose leads because we're looking for like phone call leads. And then once you get to this next part down here using the conversion goals, we're just going to press continue because we're going to be telling Google in a moment that we're looking for phone calls anyway. And then for the campaign type, we're going to work with search. And if you haven't run Google Ads before and you don't already have campaigns with a lot of data, you always want to go with search anyway. And then for select the way you'd like to reach your goal, we're going to go with phone calls. And this is where you're going to be asked to put in your phone number as well. And what we're going to do for the purposes of this video is we're just going to pick a completely random business and walk you through the full setup as if we were setting up a real campaign for them. And for the purposes of this video, what we're going to do is just come here to Google Maps and just find a random company, and we're going to go with like a plumbing company for this video. So we'll just say plumber near Manchester, for example. And we'll just go with the first one here, and we're basically just doing this for the purposes of this video, just so we have a phone number that we can use for like the tutorial of this campaign. So here then we're just going to make sure we have the right country selected and put in the correct phone number. And obviously this is going to be your own number for your own business if you're setting up your campaign yourself. And then we're just going to press continue. And then you name the campaign as well. So we're just going to call this call campaign or video. And once we do that, then you just come over here to press continue. And on the next page, then you have to decide what bidding strategy you want to go with for your campaign. And usually for any like lead generation for like, a local service-based business, the main two options you're going to have out of all of these six are either to focus on conversions or clicks at the very beginning. And we've got separate videos on the channel covering this in more detail. But for any brand new campaigns that we haven't got a lot of conversion data for yet, we're always going to go with maximize clicks at the very beginning, so that we can get as much relevant conversion data from the very beginning. And with the aim then of being able to switch over to maximize conversions with the target CPA after the first month, we can continue lowering our target CPA and our cost per lead along with that. But if you go with maximize conversions with a target CPA at the very beginning, we don't know if Google's actually able to generate us a lead for that amount because we don't have the data to say that it can. So we found that if you do that at the very beginning, you're going to struggle to like get impressions. And even if you just go with straight up maximize conversions at the very beginning, Google still just doesn't have enough data over like which type of users are most likely to result in leads. So for that reason, we're just going to go with maximize clicks. And we'd always recommend setting a maximum cost per click bid limit for this as well. But to know what we're going to set for a maximum cost per click bid limit, we need to have an idea of the cost per clicks of the keywords that we're going to be targeting in our area. And usually before we get to this point, before we even start creating the campaign, this is why we always, do our keyword research and decide, what our ad groups are going to look like first. So that way we have a clear idea of what we're going to set this to, and we also have an idea of what our overall structure for the campaign is going to look like as well. So I'm just going to briefly walk you through that process as well, as we have got separate videos on the channel when it comes to keyword research specifically, but I'll just show you, how I'd go about doing what I would do to determine what your cost per click bid limit's going to be and what the process of the keyword research itself looks like as well. So inside your Google Ads campaign in a separate tab, you can just come up to your keyword planner by going into the search bar, and then you want to just say discover new keywords. And first thing you want to make sure you do is switch the target location to the specific location that you're going to target. So that's usually like, a city or a state or a county, depending on where you're based. And because we chose a company in Manchester, for example, then we're just going to choose Manchester as the target area. So we're going to make sure we get, keywords that are being searched in this area specifically. And we're going to see what the cost per clicks of those keywords are as well. And then from here, you can put in a few relevant keywords ideas based on like things that you think your customers are searching. So let's say, for example, plumber near me, and plumbing company, and plumbing contractor. And once you have a few ideas like this put in, then you can just press get results. And what that's going to do is basically just make a big long list of keywords appear. And you're just going to have a lot of different keyword ideas then that you can use for your campaign. And we're going to walk you through, how to separate all these keywords out into separate ad groups and like, which keywords that we want to target and all of that in just a moment. But for now, we're just using the keyword planner here to see, what our maximum cost per click bid limit should be for this campaign. So we see our full list of keywords here, but to determine, what we should set our maximum cost per click bid limit to, we're going to come over here to the top of bid, low and high range. And usually you want to look at somewhere in between these two numbers or more so towards the high range to determine, what you should set your maximum cost per click bid limit to. Now you can see that on average that most of these high range for these keywords come out to about under €10, but you will see that there are some keywords as well that have a really high cost per click bid limit as well. But you don't want to necessarily be bidding the maximum amount on every keyword, but you'll notice that for much more competitive keywords that have the most high buying intent, for example 24/7 plumber near me, or even emergency plumber, for example, things that like indicate the person's going to call straight away, those are the ones with the highest cost per clicks. But we don't necessarily have to be bidding the top amount and be at the top of the page for every single search. We can say for this example that we would have enough budget to set our maximum cost per click bid limit to about 10, because we know that if we're going to be targeting a lot of keywords, that we're going to be able to set our bid limit high enough so that we're actually going to get impressions and clicks inside of our account. Because because the whole process of maximize clicks is to be able to get enough clicks to actually get enough conversions in the first month to switch over to our conversion based bidding strategy. So once you've determined your maximum cost per click bid limit, then depending on the cost per clicks of the keywords in the locations that you're targeting, you're going to come back to your campaign then, and you want to set a maximum cost per click bid limit, and we're going to say €10 in this case. And within the first few days of the campaign as well, even after you get your first few leads, you're going to get recommendations from Google saying to switch to maximize conversions using a target CPA. But you want to have a plan yourself in mind of when you're going to do this, because you as the human like will know best when it comes to like how much conversion data is enough. And I usually say that if you do manage to get about 30 leads in the first 30 days, then that is enough conversion data to make the switch over. And we'll show you as well how to actually make sure you get this amount of leads at the beginning. And as we come through this then for customer acquisition, we don't want to select bid for new customers only. We can just leave this as blank because we want to make sure we're targeting as much of an audience as possible. And then you can just come down here then to next. And then for campaign settings, then first thing you want to do is make sure that you have this unselected straight away, because what it usually does is just lead to a lot of irrelevant and spam clicks that aren't going to convert into high quality leads, because what it does is shows your ads on a lot of different search browsers like outside of Google itself, and usually it just results in much like lower quality traffic overall. So we want to make sure that we have this deselected and only show our ads on Google search engine. And then when you come down to location, then it's really important, first of all, that what you really need to remember to do is press location options here because it's very, conveniently hidden that it's automatically selected to presence or interest, meaning that your ads can almost show up anywhere, even outside your target area, as long as someone has shown interest in your location, meaning that, if they've ever searched for that on Google, for example, then and they're based in a completely different country, then your ads can still be shown, which you obviously don't want as a service-based business. So you want to select this to presence, and you obviously don't want to target all countries and territories either. So we're going to enter another location, and you can come here to advanced search as well, where you can choose to select your location either by mile radius. So you can do, for example, if you want to do a mile radius around the area we're targeting, you can do it like this. But for the sakes of this video, we're just going to enter in the location that we said we're targeting from the beginning, which is just the Manchester area, and then press save. And then once you have your location targeting set up and you come down here to languages, you can just keep this as is, as usually it is automatically set to English. And what you don't want to do for any campaign is have multiple languages within the same campaign. If you're in a location, for example, maybe Canada, where people speak both English and French or English and Spanish, in another country, you'd usually want to make separate campaigns for different languages because it's just so much easier having your keywords and ad copy and everything like that split up based on language, and it just gets a bit messy if you were to have multiple languages within the one campaign. Next then is your audience segments. So when you press audience segments here, what you want to make sure you're doing is selecting it to observation mode at the very beginning, because you don't want to target very specific audiences at the beginning because you're greatly limiting the amount of people that you have reached to. And you'd usually just struggle for search volume if you had this selected to targeting at the beginning. So we want to keep this as observation mode at the very beginning. And what you can do then is basically, select as many of these different audiences as possible because Google isn't going to be targeting them specifically, but instead just collecting data on them. So that way, in a few months' time, you can come back and look at these and see is there any, specific audiences that are performing best. And usually what we do when we're making campaigns is selecting as many of these as, possible that could even be like remotely relevant to what you offer. So if this was a plumbing campaign, you could go to search first of all and select plumbing, and you'll just see a bunch of audiences appear. And not necessarily are all of these like directly related to plumbing, but we can go ahead and select all these because Google is only going to be collecting data on these anyway, and not necessarily just targeting them directly. So we can select all of these, for example, home and garden, homeowners, construction industry, and so on. For example, there is some that that aren't even worth targeting at all. For example, renters, because usually it's homeowners that are looking to get one of these jobs done. But anything else that even could be possibly remotely related, then it's worth, targeting because Google's not going to be targeting these directly anyway. And then we can come over to browse and go to who they are and basically just select all of these. Another one that's usually just not worth targeting at all would be, current college students, for example, because, again, these aren't the kind of people that would be looking to get this type of job done. But for the most part, you can select, anything as mentioned that, could be considered relevant. And you basically just want to select, as many of these as possible that you can find. And now that we have a bunch of audience segments selected, what we can do then, and once you've made sure it's selected to observation mode, is just come down here then. And usually broad match keywords is selected by default to off, so you don't need to worry about that. But you do want to make sure just in case that this is not selected to on because you do not want to use broad match keywords for your entire campaign, or else Google is, going to blow through your budget and, lead to a lot of irrelevant search terms that you just don't want to appear for. And for automatically created assets as well, you just want to keep this as off by default. So just make sure that's turned off. And then before you press next, you want to come here to more settings. And ad rotation is something that we like to keep as optimized, especially at the beginning, because basically what that means is when you have three ads in each of your ad groups and you start getting a lot of impressions in each, Google will notice that like one of the three ads will generally tend to perform better. And basically what that means is that Google is going to start showing that ad out of the three ads more often than the other two. And it's usually best to just keep this as optimized. But what you can also do, completely up to yourself, is choose do not optimize, but this just requires you to like keep an eye on the ads more regularly because they're going to get roughly the same amount of impressions regardless of, if one is performing a lot better than the other. Whereas if one is clearly better than the other two, then you might as well have that ad show more often. So that's basically what optimize means. And then as we go through the rest of the settings, you can keep the start and end date as is and keep the campaign URL options and brands just as is as well. But what you definitely want to do is come to your ad schedule. And for a call only campaign, you want to make sure that you are only running your ads when you're actually, available to answer the phone, or at the very least are able to return the call within 5 minutes if you miss the call. Because what's going to happen if you miss the call and don't return it really soon is that the customer is most likely just going to look for another company to do the job. So this ad schedule is completely dependent on, the hours that you operate. Maybe for plumbing, for example, if you are a 24/7 business, then it might make sense to have the ads running 24/7. But usually you just want to have these running during your business hours. So let's just say for this campaign, we know that we're only able to answer the phone usually on Mondays up to Fridays from 9 to 5, then you can select your ads to only show that during those hours. And basically your entire budget is allocated to the times of the day that that you're going to be running. And to be honest, usually, Monday to Friday during working hours is the best times to run your ads anyway. Like we run a lot of campaigns from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. as well, for example. But usually the quality of the leads on the weekend doesn't tend to be as good as during the week, usually just because people have a lot more time on their hands and they have the time to browse around. Whereas if people call you during business hours, then it's usually because they actually need to get the job done. But obviously this completely varies depending on what you offer, because if you're only running like emergency plumbing related keywords, for example, then even if they do call on the weekend, the chances are it is because they actually need a plumber. But once you've selected your ad schedule then as well, we just come here to next. And now this is where we're going to get to our keywords and ad section. And what we usually do personally anyway for any campaign that we make is have all of the keyword research and our ad groups decided in advance, so we just know what that structure is going to look like. So before we add in our ad group and first keywords in ad here, what we're going to do is like show you very briefly how I go about the keyword research process and just cut some of that time out for you as well, just to show you what really matters when it comes to doing your keyword research. So what we usually do is first of all make a Google Sheet because it's just the easiest way to organize, your keywords and ad groups. And once you have a Google Sheet made, then what you can do is just make these columns nice and big, just so we're able to make our list of keywords that we're going to copy and paste into here, and have our ad groups clearly defined as well by intent, which I'll just show you in just a second. So what we'll do for this video is just walk you through an example of, how we'd go about this if we were creating a real campaign. So we just resize these columns, just from their default one to about 250, just so they're wide enough and we can clearly see our full list of ad groups and keywords displayed. And now once we've done our initial like keyword search inside the keyword planner after entering in our location and our first few, sample keywords like we've done already, this is where we kind of determine, what kind of keywords that we want to target and how we're going to split up our ad groups as well. And usually you can use this big list of keywords to determine, how is that going to be structured. And there is so many different ways that you can structure your ad groups inside Google Ads. But basically what you want to do is make sure that the list of keywords that you have in each column are all tightly related. And so that way we're going to be able to write really relevant ad copy for that keyword. Now, what I'd also do as well to just make this easier for you is come up here to the right hand side where you can download your full list of keywords as a Google Sheet, just because it makes it all a lot easier to go through. Or alternatively as well, you can just put this out a bit to the side so you can clearly see all of the potential keywords. And now, depending on what you offer, whether you're a roofer, whether you're a plumber, whether you offer, landscaping or anything like that, for example, you're going to have different ideas of like how you want to structure your keywords and ad groups. Now, for something like roofing, for example, you might want to split up your ad groups based on the service itself. So you might have separate ad groups for roof repair, gutter repair, chimney repair, roof cleaning, roof replacement, and so on. For something like plumbing, for example, just because like all of the keywords themselves, mention plumber, then we might also want to split up our keywords at the location level as well. So for example, in like Manchester, for example, there might be, multiple areas that all have like a decent sized population, and we can also target keywords that are relevant to that location as well. So like that's what we might do for this campaign. So first of all, we're going to decide, the titles of our ad group so we know exactly which column that we're going to put our keywords into. So the first one we might just have, generic, sort of plumbing in general. And then the next one we could have, plumbing local, meaning the keywords contain something like near me or in my area at the end. And then for the next one, we might have a ad group for emergency plumbing. And what we could also do then is make separate ad groups for some of the most, popular suburbs. So if somebody is searching for a plumber in a specific area, then they're gonna, see an ad that says like plumber in that specific area. So after having just a look at what the most populated areas in the Manchester area are, we're gonna go with plumber Bolton, plumber Rochdale, and plumber Stockport as well. So this is going to be completely dependent, on the area that you're working with. But if you're working in like, a big area and that area has like multiple suburbs, and some of those suburbs have like, high populations that, could have their own ad group, then it might be worth doing that because you're just going to be able to have like really relevant ads for those keywords. And what we do with that then is we just have these selected as bold, just so we know that these are the overall title of our ad group. And now what we can do is start adding in our keywords. So what I'll show you now is basically copying and pasting in a few of these keywords. But we're not going to do the full process going through like, the full list of keywords from the keyword planner, as we don't want this video to be going on for hours, but we'll just show you, some examples to give you an idea of, exactly how you want to be doing this yourself. So now it's usually easiest to just have, either two Google Sheets or the keyword planner and your other Google Sheet pulled up alongside each other, just to make this process a bit quicker. But what's worth mentioning as well is that you usually want to target at least a few keywords, with, at least 100 to 1,000 searches per month. And as you can see here, that's not an issue for this campaign as we already have some keywords with multiple thousand searches per month. So we'll just start adding in these. So for example, plumber near me will go in the local ad group because it mentions near me. And then we can put plumbing company and plumbing contractor in the generic plumbing group because they're just, generic plumbing keywords. And just same with plumber. And then we come down here to emergency plumber near me. And this can go into the emergency plumbing ad group and emergency plumber. And then, for example, another one, we can just put plumbing services near me in the plumbing local ad group. And then just to, show you just another few examples briefly. So we can go plumbing company near me, and local plumbers can also go in the local ad group, and so on. And you obviously don't want to add like all of these keyword ideas to your campaign. You only want to focus on those that have clear buying intent, so things that like actually indicate the person's looking to get the job done. And usually you don't want to target keywords like cheap, for example, because usually those are not the kind of best quality leads that you want to be getting either. So usually kind of things that have near me at the end of them are good keywords to target. But basically anything that we know that with having it in our ad group that we're going to be able to write highly relevant ad copy for, then that's what we want to include. And now for the other three location specific ad groups as well, we can always come back up here and basically find more relevant keywords to those, just to show you those as an example. And then any keywords that mention specifically the area that we have targeted for our location based ad group like this, then we can just start adding a few keywords to those ad groups as well. So like this, and I'll also do the same for these last two ad groups here. And we're just going to have a few keyword ideas in each one just to, give you an idea of what the keyword research looks like. But in general, you want to go like, deep into the keyword planner and go through like, the big list of suggestions because, usually you're going to find a lot of like decent keywords as well, even if you go through like the full list of 1,000 keywords. And you don't want to miss out on, some really good quality keywords that can make a big difference for your campaign. So what you can do then once you know you have the rest of your keyword research done, and usually you know you're going to have more keywords than this overall. But for the purposes of this video, we don't need to go through like the full keyword planner, just as this is just to give you enough of an idea of like how to actually do this yourself. But once we do that, then we're able to come back to our campaign and basically finish off the initial campaign setup process. So we're going to name our first ad group. So we're just going to call this one plumber for the first ad group. And basically what we're going to do then is come back to our Google Sheet and copy those first few keywords and add it in here. Now, once you paste these in here as well, they're automatically added as broad match keywords because basically they don't have any quotation marks or brackets around them. But once we're actually inside the campaign in a few moments, we're going to make sure that these are changed to the correct match type, as you don't want these to be set to broad match by default. But just to have our actual keywords in here, and we're going to come down then to create our first ad. Now for call only ads, you don't need to have a final URL if you only want them to be able to call you directly. So like as we can see here from this call button here, we're basically, having the only call to action as our call button in this case. The main difference between having a final URL versus not having a final URL is that you will see higher cost per clicks when not using a final URL because obviously someone clicking on the phone button is more valuable than someone just clicking onto your website. But if you are only looking for phone calls, then you don't need to add a final URL, but you do need to have good ad copy to actually get the phone call. But it is also an option to have a final URL as a landing page where you can also just have another call button, and you basically have more information on your landing page with social proof, screenshots of your 5-star reviews and so on, with a call button where they can call you directly, and you can have an offer on there as well. But I also have separate videos on like what goes into a high converting landing page if you'd like to go that option. But if you're looking for a really quick setup and don't like want to have to create a landing page as well, then you can just keep the final URL blank. But we want to have the verification URL included, and we're just going to make sure that we include this company's verification or their actual website name as a verification URL, as you basically need to have a URL with a phone number that matches with the phone number here, or else the ad is not going to be approved. So even if you're not running the ads to a website, you need to have a domain put into the verification URL that has a phone number that matches up with this phone number here. And then for the display path, then you basically just want to enter in something that is going to be relevant to what they offer. So for example, plumbing services or plumbing service. You just have to, sometimes you just need to mess around with it to, make sure that you're getting the most for the characters that you have, because you only have 30 for your headlines and 90 for your descriptions. So you basically just need to have good ad copy because, you need to make the most out of what you've got. So for this, we're just going to change this to plumber. And in here as well, you could always say call us today because we're looking for phone calls. And then for the business name, we're just going to copy, obviously, you'd put your own business name in here. And then basically we just want to start filling out our headlines and descriptions. And for your ad copy in general, you basically just want to identify the problem. So basically identifying the problem means having, a headline or headlines and descriptions that are relevant to the keywords of that ad group. You also want to outline benefits or reasons to buy. So like why should they choose you? And then call to actions as well. So like, call us today for a free quote. So we're just going to give you an example of what that ad copy looks like. And just let's say for headline one, you could just say, for example, the best plumbing contractors. And then for the headline two, you could say maybe ask a question, for example, looking for a plumber. So basically what you're doing here is making them, feel like they're in the right place, because if they're looking for a plumber and they see, looking for a plumber, then, they're more likely to call you because you have a headline that's highly relevant to, what they're searching for. And then for the description, you want to start, also have keyword focus, but also start outlining, more benefits. So let's just say, for example, fully tailored plumbing service. You'd say maybe satisfaction guarantee. And maybe you could also say family owned and operated as well, because that's also a good maybe reason to buy. And then for the next one, you could say maybe convenient and affordable plumbing services for 20 plus years. Then maybe call us today for a Now that's just an example of, an ad that you can write. And basically what you want to do as well is just try and fill up these as much as possible because, you'd only have so much space for your ad copy and you want to, use the most out of the 30 characters for the headlines and the 90 characters for the descriptions that you can. And once you do that, then once you have your first ad written along with your keywords of your first ad group and your first ad group named, you want to just press next. And now this is where you come to your actual daily budget that you are going to set. And the average daily budget that you're recommended is should just be ignored because that's given to you based on the keywords that you've added so far. And you're going to be adding more keywords and ad groups and ads as we actually go through the rest of the campaign creation process. So we don't need to set this, but what we can do is set a custom budget. And what I'd always recommend doing for your daily budget is setting it to 10 times what we've set for the maximum cost per click bid limit. So if you remember from earlier in this video, we set that maximum cost per click bid limit to 10. So that means we should set a custom daily budget of about 100. So that way we know that, we're able to get at least 10 clicks per day. And, if we're converting, we should be getting at least a 10% conversion, especially, if we're not even using a landing page. Or even if we were using a high converting landing page, then we should also be able to get at least a 10% conversion rate. So setting a daily budget like this means that we're just going to be able to get our 30 conversions within the first 30 days. That way then we're going to be able to switch over to our maximize conversions bidding strategy and bring down our cost per conversion then month after month. And once we do that, then we just press next. And then basically you will arrive at the page saying that your campaign is ready to publish. So what we're going to do is press publish for the initial setup. And as soon as this campaign is published, we want to pause it straight away because we haven't, finished setting up the rest of our ads and ad groups and extensions just yet. So we have the campaign paused. And what we want to start doing then is basically adding in the rest of our keywords and ads and ad groups. But before we do that, just to save you, a lot of time, we're going to come up here to goals and select conversions then and go to conversion summary. We basically just press create a conversion action. And what we can do here is basically create a conversion action that tells Google that, we've got a phone call at someone anytime someone clicks on the call button on our call only ad, but not just when they click on it, but when they actually call you. So press phone calls here. And for the source, we're going to choose calls from ads using call extensions or call only ads, and then press continue. And we're going to name this then, so we're going to say call from call only ad, and then you can put in, for the company name that you're actually running it for, but I'm just going to reference it like this. And then we're going to say don't use a value for this conversion action. And then for the count, we're just going to keep this as 1. And for call length, we'll change this to 1 second because we want to count all phone calls as conversions because we just want to give Google as much conversion data as possible. And we're just going to come down here then to create and continue as we can leave the other two the same. And basically now we have our conversion action set up, so we can press done. And what we'll do then is come back to our ad, so go back to overview. And we're just going to come down here to campaigns and ads. And we'll basically just see here the ad that we've made so far. And we come here to edit it. And basically at the bottom of the ad, you can see conversion action. And we basically just want to set this conversion action to the one that we just set up so that we're basically, have conversion tracking set up correctly. So, if somebody calls us from this ad, then we're basically telling Google that this is a conversion. So we want to save this. And now what we can do is, when we duplicate the ads or ad groups, we basically don't need to set up conversion tracking over and over again because we've already done it for our first ad and we're going to be duplicating this now. So we can see that we have our just one ad group so far, and we're just going to make sure we're inside the ad group itself. And we're just going to come to ads now. And basically what we want to do first of all is to duplicate this initial ad into 3 ads. So our first ad group has 3 ads. And then what we'll be able to do is duplicate the entire ad group itself multiple times, just so we're not going to have to keep writing, brand new ad copy over and over again, which I'll show you now. So to duplicate the ad, first of all, we're just going to select the ad and press edit, and then press copy and press edit again, and then press paste. And we're going to select the new campaign type that we've just set up, and then make sure that the correct ad group is selected and press done. And basically we don't need to pause the new ads after pasting because the overall campaign itself is paused, and you can just press paste. So now that we have the first ad pasted, we can just do the same thing again to have 3 ads. So press edit, copy and edit and paste, and then just select the campaign and ad group, press done and paste again. So now that we have 3 of the same ad pasted with conversion tracking set up in all of them, what we need to do now is basically change the ad copy of the other 2. So that way we have 3 completely separate ads. And we're going to be giving Google as much data to A/B test then as possible. And we're going to just see over time which of these 3 ads perform the best. So we're going to come into our second ad now. And basically we don't need to change anything like the verification URL, the phone number, the display path here. All we need to change is the 2 headlines and 2 descriptions in each case. So what we can do is remove this and say maybe trusted plumbing experts. And maybe for the second headline we can say free quote within minutes. And then maybe for the first description we can say call us today for all your plumbing needs, maybe qualified professionals, immediate assistance. So anything that is a benefit of why they should choose you, as long as you have your keyword focus in there as well, and also call to actions, for example, call us today. This is just an example of, good ad copy that, is conducive to like getting a phone call from the ad. And for the second one, then you could say maybe the most reliable local plumbing, the most reliable plumbing services. You could say maybe affordable pricing and maybe trusted for 20 plus years. And once you have that ad then made, you can see that our conversion action is already there, which is perfect. And we just press save new version. And basically then for the third ad as well, just so you already have the idea, you basically just change around the headlines and descriptions in your third ad as well. So now once you basically have 3 separate ads with unique ad copy, headlines and descriptions in each of the 3 ads for your ad group, what you can start doing then is copying and pasting your ad group, because we have all our ad copy written now, and all we have to do is change around the keyword focus in each. So we're not going to have to write, brand new ads from scratch, which is just going to save us a lot of time for our campaign. So once we're back at the campaign view, then we can just come over here to ad groups. And what we're going to do is copy and paste our ad group then just the same way we did with our ads. So we select the ad group, press edit and copy and edit and paste. We select the campaign again, and we don't need to pause the new ad groups after pasting, so we just press paste. And what I'll do for the purposes of this video is just show you, what this looks like for one of the ad groups, because, we don't need to, show you the same process 6 times. But I'll just show you, at the first example, just so you know exactly, the differences that will be made in each case. Now, once the ad group is pasted, the first thing you want to do is rename it so you have reference over which ad group this is. So let's say we had an ad group for the Bolton area. So we can just call this Plumber Bolton to reflect the keywords and ads for this ad group. And the first thing we want to do is come into it and select it and press search keywords. And now we're going to basically remove these 3 keywords here because these are the keywords for the other ad group. And what we're going to do then is replace it with the keywords that we actually want to target for this ad group instead. So basically then once you go back to your Google Sheet and copy and paste those keywords for the new ad group, you're just going to press save. So now you have the correct keywords in this ad group. And what we're going to do as well, which I'll show you in a moment, is just making sure that you have the correct match type selected for all of your keywords in the campaign. But first of all, I'm just going to show you what, writing more relevant ad copy for your new ad group looks like. So we're going to come to our new ad group now. And for each of these 3 ads, we're not going to need to change around our headlines and descriptions in full, but basically just make it more keyword focused instead. So this is basically the Plumber Bolton ad group. So we're just going to try and add this in wherever possible. So what we can do then as well is just copy it, and then we can just say the best plumbers in place. And And basically, this is just going to save you a lot of time compared to, having to write all these ads out brand new. So basically, you could say use a plumber. Yep. And then basically, we just want to basically add in the core theme of the keywords of this ad group wherever we can. So plumbing, you can say in, for example, yeah, that fits in there. And you get the idea as well. You basically just want to do this for the other two ads as well. So basically, we just want to keep repeating the same process. You can say the best plumbers in, yeah, and looking for, and then fully tailored. And you basically just, it's basically just the same thing again then for the other two ads. And once you have that done, then for each of the three ads, you basically have all your, you basically have three unique ads again without having to, go through the full process of writing your headlines and descriptions. And this is exactly what you repeat then for, like, the rest of the ad groups that you're running, whether you're running, four, five, six, or seven, extra ad groups. You basically just, keep doing this process of duplication, and it's just going to save you, so much time compared to having to, write unique ads in each case. And now once you have all your ad groups made, the most important thing as well you need to remember to do is just come to search keywords here. And what you can do is select all of them and press edit. And then we want to change match types because they're going to be selected as broad match at the beginning. And usually for any, local service-based business at the very beginning of any campaign at the very least, I would always recommend using exact match keywords because we're basically only going to show up for, at least for the most part anyway, relevant searches to what we offer. Whereas if we, had these as broad match keywords or even phrase match a lot of the time, we're just going to get a lot of irrelevant searches in our search terms report that are not directly related to what we offer at all, and sometimes are not even remotely related to what we offer. And we might just start appearing for searches like competitor names, and those are not the kind of searches we want to appear for if we want to be getting phone calls. So that's why we have these keywords now selected to exact match. What you can also do as well in advance before launching the campaign is going to negative search keywords here. And, for example, if you're going through the keyword planner and, you're going through the full list of the 1,000 keywords and you see some ideas that, you just don't want to appear for at all, then what you can do then is basically go to negative keywords and add them as negatives. So basically, you're telling Google from the very beginning that no, we do not want to appear for searches like this, and that's just going to help reduce the amount of irrelevant search terms that you appear for at the very beginning. So it's also worth adding your negatives from the very beginning as well, just to save you the amount of time that you're going to have to spend going through your search terms report multiple times a week at the very beginning. The last thing then that we want to remember to do before actually launching the campaign is come over here to assets and press assets, and this is basically where you can set up all the extensions for your campaign. And just so you know, for local service-based businesses, the ones that are actually worth including would be your images. So basically, if you have like images from projects that you've done for like plumbing or any of the services that you offer, you're also able to use stock photos for this. It's worth just basically having them in alongside your headlines and descriptions just to make it more clear what you offer. You can have your business name as an extension and your business logo, which you will get access to after you have your advertiser verification complete, which is basically, just proving to Google that you have a registered business. And then callouts, which I always recommend using because they're basically just lists of benefits of why they should choose you. And then also just structured snippet extensions as well. So we're just going to briefly, walk you through these. So the image extension, first of all, then you can just press image. And basically, if you want to add this at the ad group level, if you're offering different services, in this case, it would make more sense because it's just a general plumbing campaign that we're going to add it at the campaign level. So you can basically just press images here. And what you'll have the option to do is either upload them from your computer if you already have images, or else you can use stock photos that are relevant to plumbing if you don't have, enough, decent, good quality images as well, because Google are quite fussy when it comes to which images they accept. They have to be they have to like meet their quality standards. So you might just have to play around with that to see which images they actually accept. The next two then are business name, where you basically just, press the blue icon and enter your business name. And the same with your logo then as well. And you just have to make sure it's the correct size and it's not blurry or anything like that, because it has to, be a certain size and be shaped like a square as well. And there is usually, tools online that you can use to make it the correct size. And then with your call out extensions as well, you want to basically add these. You also want to have these added at the campaign level, which is really important, because if you add it at the ad group level, then you're going to have to add it separately for all of your ad groups. And you obviously don't want to have to do that. And just to show you some examples of, call out extensions that you can use that we just added, you can say, for example, basically, depending on what you offer, call out extensions are basically any benefits of why they should choose you. So, for example, affordable, family owned and operated, emergency repairs, transparent pricing, quick and reliable, courteous, 20 plus years experience, and so on. Basically, anything that might help you stand out from your competitors is worth including as a call out. And then your structured snippets are basically, categories or features of what you offer. And to add these, then you can press the blue icon and also make sure that you add it at the campaign level. And basically, you just want to have, at least two of these. Like, having two of these is fine. And what you can also do then is just make sure you have the correct heading set it. So basically, you can select neighborhoods and make a structured snippet extension, including all like the suburbs in the area that you're targeting. What you can do as well is go to service catalog and basically list all of the different services that you offer. For example, if you're a plumber, you might offer, boiler repairs, toilet repairs, and so on. And you can basically just make a list out of all of those services. So if somebody sees that structured snippet, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I'm looking for that service," and so that'll also just help you get the phone call. And those are the main, kind of two structured snippet extensions that I would make sure to include for any service-based business, just because they're always going to be relevant. And, you might also be able to include like amenities, which is basically just more benefits, or styles as well, depending on, the service that you offer. And that's basically the full setup of, how to go ahead and make a call only campaign. What you also just need to remember to do then is change this from paused to enabled. Just make sure you have everything done first before doing this, just so your campaign doesn't start spending when you don't have everything ready to go. But this is basically everything you need to know when it comes to setting up a call only campaign. Now, if we were running a final URL as well, we would need to go through the landing page setup and setting up conversion tracking for that. But if you're not running a final URL like we showed as the example in this video, then there isn't really anything else that, needs to be explained. And if you are trying to set up a call campaign for yourself, or even improve one that you already have in place, I hope this video helped, giving you more insight as to how they work, and, what you can do to, get more phone calls yourself using Google Ads. And if you do have any questions at all about, anything we mentioned in this video, because we did cover quite a lot, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you do like this kind of Google Ads related content as well, feel free to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel, as we'll be hoping to post, daily content here on YouTube, all things related to Google Ads. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.